Okay, so let's talk about China in kind of a roundabout way. You see, first of all, Pete Hegseth spoke on the House today. Spoke at the House, on the House. He spoke in front of the House today, in front of the House of Representatives. What's he doing? He's the defense secretary, and he's bouncing around Capitol Hill asking for money. That's how it works. When you're head of the FBI, you go to Congress and beg for money. When you're Secretary of Defense, you have to go to the House and say, I need money for this, I need money for that, I need money for this. And of course, Democrats up and down the line didn't really want to talk about the defense of America or the military or ships or planes. They wanted to talk about the United States military getting involved in these riots in LA. There was a whole lot of talk like this.
Mr. Secretary, we're both from Minnesota. I was in the Twin Cities during the riots that followed the murder of George Floyd. Tens of thousands of protesters took to the streets for days. Governor Walz made the decision to call up the Minnesota National Guard. At no point did we need the citizens of Minnesota request that the Marines be deployed.
Well, Congresswoman, thank you for the question. You are right. We are both originally from Minnesota, which is why I recall 2020 quite well, when Governor Walz abandoned a police precinct and allowed it to be burned to the ground, and also allowed 5 days of chaos to occur inside the streets of Minneapolis.
What's going on here? Why are they upset about the Marines being sent in? Aguilar was concerned about how they're sleeping and whatnot.
Mr. Secretary, I want to express my severe concern with the deployment of the National Guard in Los Angeles without consultation of the state of California. There have been photographs that have shown these troops sleeping on the floor and have not been provided fuel, food, or water by DOD. How long will this deployment last, and why were we unprepared to provide them basic necessities such as food and water?
The commanders and troops on the field are very well prepared, sir. There are moments where you make do as best you can temporarily, but we are ensuring they're housed, fed, water capabilities in real time from my office, because I care that much about the California Guard and the Marines and the men and women who are supporting our ICE agents on the ground. It's true every day, and that's a disingenuous attack that misrepresents how much we care about our troops and what they're doing to defend ICE agents. I'm not going to take the fact that we don't care about the troops. Nobody cares more about the troops at the top than this secretary and the chairman and our department.
How long will the deployment last?
We stated very publicly that it's 60 days. Because we want to ensure that those rioters, looters, and thugs on the other side assaulting our police officers know that we're not going anywhere. We're here to maintain the peace on behalf of law enforcement officers in Los Angeles, which Gavin Newsom won't do.
Okay, couple things. First, lying on the ground, sleeping on the ground, not being provided for. It is, well, I'll just put it to you this way. I have mixed emotions about compulsory military service for a country, very mixed emotions. You know, a country like Israel, there are many in the world, but Israel comes to mind right away, that forces everybody to join the military for a certain period of time. Part of me loves it for a lot of reasons. Part of me hates it for a lot of reasons. But the part of me that loves it is questions like that. Anybody who's ever been in the service has slept on the ground, on the floor. You've dug a hole in the ground, in the mud, in the jungle. At one point in time, I was in triple canopy jungle with my feet, my naked feet on the ground, and a centipede the size of a snake crawled over them. It's called being in the military. You don't always have some cozy sheets in a bed. Sometimes you grab some shut-eye right there on the floor. It's no big deal. Buck up, Buttercup. And anybody who served knows that. That's one. Two, what are they actually mad about? Are they mad that they're not getting proper beds? Are they mad about the length of deployment? Are they mad about any of these things? No. They're mad about force on force. They're mad about their force being met with force and their revolution being stopped. That is their true concern. And that is why they get upset when you use force on them. Because remember what I've always told you about communists. They're religious zealots, and therefore they only understand fear and pain. They don't have a second language you can use. You're never going to reason with them. You're not going to appeal to their morality because they don't share your morality at all. Because they're religious zealots, think about them like radical jihadis. Fear and pain, it's all they understand. Well, not only do you need to understand that, they understand that. That's what they know. They know. They'll riot, they'll loot, they'll vandalize, they'll kill, they'll hurt people for as long as they possibly can until force stops them, until good stops them. They're not concerned about the Marines sleeping on the ground. They're concerned about the Marines smashing in the face of some filthy foreigner street communist who's pillaging Los Angeles right now. That's their main concern, and that's the only reason any Democrat, top to bottom, is questioning the deployment of Marines in Los Angeles. Deploy the Marines, smash the rioters, end this immediately. Now let's move on and talk about something that actually matters more than what's happening in Los Angeles right now. Pete Hegseth brought it up today. Let's talk about China.
I'm also proud to represent and serve our warriors and their families. Today, as they do every day, they are keeping America safe. They're defending the homeland. They're standing up and deterring communist China.
Standing up and deterring communist China. That wasn't a one-off. That wasn't something he just mentioned in the intro. You talked about communist China.
Clear any attempt by communist China to conquer Taiwan by force would result in devastating consequences for the Indo-Pacific and the world. There's no reason to sugarcoat it. The threat China poses is real, and it could be imminent. We hope not.
Now, Trump has talked about China. Hegseth's always talking about China. Kash Patel's brought up China. China, China, China. So here's what can happen to you and me if we're not aware of what's going on. It's a very human nature thing. Why is China that big of a deal? It's a human nature thing to ask that question. They're not landing divisions of troops on the shores. There aren't Chinese submarines off the coast of California right now. There aren't Chinese fighter jets flying over Alaska. What are we worried about? Well, this is something that America wrestles with and will wrestle with. China is at war with us, but China has a very Eastern view of war. Eastern in this way. They believe in fighting a war differently, not just with bombs, not just with bullets, not just with the normal things. China fights wars in different ways. It's an Eastern, all-encompassing way to fight a war. We've talked about this before. Maybe you're aware of this. The Mongols, the Mongolian Empire, speaking of an Eastern view of war. You talk about the Mongols and immediately people think of Genghis Khan. If they know anything more about the Mongols, they're thinking about a horse army. That's essentially what it was. Horse archers, an army, very mobile, very fast, on horseback. They'll swarm you, kill you. They'll think about the Mongols laying siege to cities and killing everybody. These are all things the Mongols are famous for. You can argue, and I actually would argue, it's the greatest army that's ever walked the face of the planet. Unstoppable, wiped out everybody. But you know what people don't talk about? The Mongols fought wars in a variety of different ways. It wasn't just that Genghis Khan would show up outside of your city on horseback. Genghis Khan's spy, his intelligence service, was top of the line. He invested unbelievable amounts of time and money into ensuring his intelligence service was amazing. They would do things like, well, if he was thinking about conquering your city, his spies would be in your city 6 months, a year before his army ever showed up. They'd be finding out where the political divisions are in the city. Can they exploit those political divisions, spreading money around, ensuring that the city wasn't near as cohesive as it had been before? Maybe a little bit of poison in the water supply. Maybe bring in somebody with the plague, intentionally weakening the city from within. So when the Mongolian hordes showed up outside of the gates, the city wasn't near as strong and ready as they could have been. That's exactly what China has been doing and is currently doing to the United States of America. They are importing fentanyl. They're trafficking it to the cartels. Well, what you need to make fentanyl. They're giving it to the cartels on purpose. This is something the Chinese Communist Party is obviously aware of, and it's something they want to happen. We now have 100,000 Americans a year dying of overdose. That's done intentionally. That's China weakening us. We now have a second story over the course of the last couple weeks of a Chinese person smuggling in pathogens, deadly pathogens, to put it inside of our food supply. They'll be interested in our water supply. Now, the problem is, for Norm and Norma, for average everyday American, you don't even know how to deal with these things. These things are random headlines you see on your phone and then you set them down. But what we do have to know is we are at war with China. That is not your call. It's not my call. We don't get a say. When it comes to wars, only one side gets a say. China has declared war on us. They intend to supplant us as the number one country on the planet, and they are fighting that war, not with bombs and bullets and submarines. They are fighting that war in a variety of different ways. They're all over the internet. Did you know that? Turning one American against another. They spend time and money doing this. Now, it's not like you need to do something. You don't need to run down to the local Chinese restaurant, start screaming at the cook. But we do have to acknowledge as a country, as a people, that we are already in a Cold War with China. And it's even more complicated because our economies depend on each other. China needs us buying goods. We need China making goods. Big old ugly situation. But it's the one we have. All right. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.